Happy spring out there. My name is Julia Rogers. I'm a professional gap year counselor, and today we're going to be talking about how to defer your college admission for an intentional gap year. So, for many high school seniors out there, spring is college decision time. And increasingly, the gap year option is becoming more popular as a choice for college bound high school students. This is because students want and need sometimes that time to grow, experience the world in new ways, and feel like they know why they're going to the college that they are choosing. And on the college side, they want students who know why they're there, who feel ready for college, and whose students are going to be members of the college campus that are active and engaged. So colleges really like gap years too. So if you are considering a gap year and want to know about taking a deferral, that is what we're going to be talking about today. So to define a gap year is an intentional period of personal growth supported by activities of enrichment. And specifically, it can help young adults in different types of transition moments. So for this purpose, we are talking about transitioning from high school to college. Now, when you're thinking about taking a deferral, that is actually the process whereby you've applied to college's senior year, you start to get your acceptance back around spring, and then you ask the college to hold your spot for a year. In other words, you are deferring your admission. Now, there's a specific process by which we're going to get approved, and we're going to talk you through what those steps are today. So first step is knowing the policies of your intended schools. If you are still deciding where you want to go, you're going to call up admissions or look on the website and see what their gap year policy is. What is the process by which you can defer? Now, some colleges have different policies for different types of deferrals. Typically, when I'm talking to students about taking a gap year, I'm talking about this intentional period where you're going to be exploring and growing, maybe traveling, maybe working, maybe interning, all sorts of different personal growth activities. That's, an intentional gap year. We also have other types of deferrals, such as medical deferrals. For example, if you have a physical issue that you are overcoming, if you have mental health challenges, that is under the medical side. Deferrals can also sometimes be granted for religious reasons or military service. So know which type of deferral you are requesting before you go through that process. So when you call up admissions or visit the website, you're going to be looking for deadlines and policies and procedures around deferring and requesting a deferral, because it is typically a request. You're asking admissions to grant you this 1 year period of time, to take different types of activities that are going to make you a more fully formed human by the time you start college. So every college is going to have their own deadline for requesting that deferral. Typically, it's somewhere between 4 and 8 weeks after college decision day on May 1st, but that can vary school to school. So that's why you want to know what their deadline is. Some schools will ask you to write a letter and send it to your admissions contact. Others will have a portal and you submit your proposal through an online portal. So just know what the process is school to school. Now, across almost all of these, opportunities and deadlines and things like that is going to be a formal proposal that you have to submit. Typically, it is in letter form, so that's kind of how I talk about it. But basically, you want to communicate to the school what your plans are for your gap year. This is what separates an accepted deferral from one that might be denied, is this intentionality and commitment to making sure that your gap year is really meaningful. So when you write your gap year deferral letter, let's call it a letter for our purposes, you really want to think about it in those terms of like when you were going to grade school and learning how to write a persuasive essay, how there's typically like 5 paragraphs. That's kind of the framework that we use when we talk about writing a good deferral letter as well. So what you want is you want your opening paragraph to talk about how excited you were to be admitted to XYZ school. You want your body paragraph to talk about your plans for your gap year. So what are you doing in the summer and fall? Have you chosen programs and opportunities? What excites you about them? How does that connect to your gap year goals for yourself? Maybe you're already planning out or thinking about the second half of your year. You talk about that in another paragraph. And then you want your closing paragraph to talk about how you hope to evolve and change and develop on your gap year and how that's going to make you a better member of the campus community when you do start a year later. So that is going to look different for just about everybody, because the great thing about gap years is that they look different for everybody. So if your plans are not set in stone yet, talk about your intentions and talk about how you are actively in the planning process and that you will make intentional choices. Colleges want to know that you are going to be using this time productively, even if it is productive rest, which many of you deserve after a pretty harrowing high school experience, active rest, intentional rest, and activities where you are recharging yourself. Perfectly acceptable. Just talk about your plans. For example, I had a student this year who spent a total of 2 months at meditation retreats, learning that as a skill. Colleges love that stuff because it shows that you are thinking critically about how you want to develop yourself. So once you've crafted that letter, you submit it. It usually takes, a couple weeks to, up to for them to get back to you, turn school to school. And then, hopefully you'll get back that, you're good to go. We'll see you in a year, answer, and off you go on your gap year. Now, a couple other things to note in regards to deferring your admission. One is that you definitely want to know the fine print around any requirements or prohibitions around your acceptance and your deferral. So when you defer to a college, you have first put down a deposit for that school. So you are intending to go to that institution at the end of your gap year. If you plan to apply to schools and put your hat back in the ring during your gap year, you will want to communicate with your college about that, and they will probably ask you to rescind that acceptance and rescind your deferral so that you can then apply to other schools. Similarly, if you've gotten a financial aid package that you really enjoy and that is really advantageous to you, that may or may not defer along with your admission. So you want to make sure you understand any financial aid implications about taking a gap year. With FAFSA, you will just reapply to FAFSA, this coming year and get a kind of a new offer on that end, on the federal aid end, after, your gap time. So with those types of things, you really want to be diligent about knowing all about the regulations and expectations around financial aid and status. Now, in regards to other types of fine print, you may also want to gain some credit on your gap year. Some schools allow you to gain some credit and put it towards your future school. Some say you can get credit, it's not going to transfer to your future school. And some say don't even try to gain credit on your gap year. We don't want to see it. It'll change your student status from being an incoming freshman to potentially being a transfer student, which can have all sorts of unforeseen implications. So just make sure that you really understand all the fine print around the deferral process and for your particular school. I would give you more specifics, but it really, shifts and changes school to school. So you just have to communicate directly with your institution. Just be genuine, transparent, and you will be so glad that you took this time for yourself. There's so many amazing things that you can do with gap time. From the students that I have spoken to and worked with who've taken gap time, I've never spoken with a student who's regretted it. So if you're on the fence and you're deciding whether or not do or don't, just go for it. Fill it with activities that bring you joy and help you grow and maintain and grow your curiosity, and you will be so happy that you did. I hope this was helpful. I have loads more resources about how to defer on my website, which is enroutegapyear.com. I'll drop it in the comments as well. And if you need any help, you can reach out to me directly. My website, again, enroutegapyear.com, or I'm on social media with my handle at enroutegapyear. Again, I'm Julia. I hope this was useful. Happy spring and happy decision making. It's such an exciting time. Congrats on getting this far and good luck.